Okay, so have you ever laid awake at night worrying that robots are going to take over all the jobs?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty common fear these days.
Right. Especially with all the crazy advancements in AI lately.
Yeah, even Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, called his own creation scary.
No kidding. So today we're going to dive into this whole AI and jobs thing.
We'll be looking at a really interesting study, actually, funded by Altman himself.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
So he's putting his money where his mouth is. What's this study about?
Well, it explores this idea of universal basic income, or UBI, as a possible solution to an AI-powered job market.
UBI, okay. So everyone gets a guaranteed income no matter what.
Exactly. The study was conducted in Spain, and they gave participants an extra $1,000 a month for 3 years.
Whoa, $1,000 a month. I mean, that could make a real difference, right?
Yeah.
Did the study say what people did with the extra cash?
It did, and the findings are pretty surprising. One of the biggest takeaways was that even with the UBI, most people still wanted to work.
Really? So it wasn't like everyone just kicked back and said, "See you later, job."
Haha, not exactly. It seems like, while the UBI definitely helped reduce financial stress, it wasn't enough to make people feel completely secure or replace that sense of purpose many get from their jobs.
Interesting. So it's not just about the money then. What else did they find?
Well, some people use the UBI to be more picky about the jobs they took.
Oh, so they could prioritize jobs with better work-life balance or something.
Exactly. Or they could hold out for a job that was more fulfilling, even if it paid a little less.
That's pretty cool. Any other interesting findings?
Yeah. Some people actually used the UBI to start their own businesses.
Whoa, that's awesome. What kind of businesses?
A lot of them were in creative fields or focused on things like social good. It seems like having that extra financial cushion gave people the freedom to pursue their passions.
That makes sense. But if people were starting businesses and feeling more empowered in their job choices, why do they still want traditional employment?
Well, the UBI definitely improved people's lives. It helped cover basic needs like food and housing, and some folks could even afford things like dental care, which they couldn't before.
Ah, I see.
But, it didn't totally eliminate financial concerns. Many people still wanted to earn more for long-term security and, just peace of mind.
So even with the extra cash, they still felt like they needed to work to make ends meet.
Exactly. It's complex, right?
Definitely. Did the study look at the psychological effects of the UBI, how it impacted people's mental well-being?
It did. Many participants reported feeling less stressed about money and more optimistic about the future. Having that safety net, even if it wasn't complete financial freedom, seemed to give them a sense of possibility.
Makes sense. But if people still wanted to work for that sense of purpose and contribution, maybe we need something more than just financial support.
You're right. It's a really important question to consider, especially as AI is changing the world of work so rapidly. Can UBI alone really address all the needs humans have?
That's a great question. So what about our listeners? What if you were suddenly given an extra $1,000 a month?
Yeah, what would you do differently? Would it change how you think about work? Would you finally start that passion project you've been putting off?
Lots to think about, huh?
Absolutely. This whole deep dive is about helping you navigate these changes and explore the possibilities of work in the age of AI.
I like it. Okay, so moving on.
It's interesting to think about this study, especially with, Sam Altman himself being worried about AI taking jobs. And he's been pushing for UBI, right? But this research kind of suggests that it's not like a magic bullet.
Yeah, definitely not a simple fix. The study found that people still want purpose from their work, even with UBI. So what else is out there? What other ideas are being tossed around to deal with job losses from AI?
Well, one idea that's getting some attention is this thing called a job guarantee. Basically, the government would make sure everyone who wants a job has one.
A job guarantee, huh? That sounds like a huge undertaking. How would that even work?
It would need a lot of investment in public projects, creating all sorts of jobs that benefit society as a whole.
Okay, so give me some examples. What kind of jobs are we talking about here?
Think about things like infrastructure projects, fixing roads and bridges, or environmental restoration, like planting trees and cleaning up pollution. Elder care is another big one. Even community arts programs could be part of it.
So it's not just about busy work. It's about doing things that actually make a difference.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The idea is that the benefits, like reducing poverty and inequality, would outweigh the costs. Of course, it's, a complicated idea with its own set of problems.
Yeah, I can imagine. What about retraining programs? It seems like those would be super important as AI skills become more and more valuable.
Oh, absolutely. Retraining is key. But it's not just about teaching everyone to code, you know?
Right, because AI will probably create different kinds of jobs too, right?
Yeah, exactly. AI is going to create a need for all sorts of skills: critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, communication, those human skills that are hard to automate.
So it's about learning to work with the technology, not just being replaced by it. Are there any cool new approaches to retraining being developed?
Tons. We're seeing more and more online learning platforms popping up, and micro-credentialing so people can learn specific skills quickly and affordably. Plus, a lot of experimenting with partnerships, between schools, companies, and nonprofits.
Interesting. Okay, so retraining is one piece of the puzzle, but even with that, some jobs are just going to disappear, right?
Yeah.
What happens to those people?
That's a real concern, for sure. Some experts think we need to look at some more radical solutions.
Radical? Like what?
Well, like a shorter work week, maybe, to spread the available work more evenly. And yeah, even UBI might still be part of the picture.
So it sounds like there's no one-size-fits-all solution. It might be a combination of things: UBI, job guarantees, retraining.
Yeah.
All working together.
Yeah, exactly. A multi-pronged approach.
But even with all that, there's still this human element, right? How do we make sure people feel valued and have a sense of purpose, even if their work looks totally different in the future?
That's such an important point. It goes way beyond just economics. It's about creating a sense of community and purpose in a world where work might not be the center of everything.
So, what are some other ways people could find meaning and connection outside of a traditional job?
Think about all the things people do now in their free time: volunteering, creative pursuits, hobbies, learning new things. Those activities can be really fulfilling and connect people to something bigger than themselves, even if they don't get paid for it.
I love that. It's about redefining what a meaningful life looks like. It doesn't have to be all about working a 9 to 5.
Right. And honestly, this shift is already happening. People are becoming more interested in things like mindfulness, well-being, and personal growth. They're choosing experiences over stuff and wanting to make a difference in the world.
That's really encouraging. It sounds like we're reclaiming our time and energy and investing it in things that actually matter to us. But these are some big changes that we're talking about. It's not going to happen overnight.
For sure. It's going to take time. There will be bumps in the road, Not everyone is going to be happy about these changes.
Yeah, that's true. So how do we manage this transition in a way that works for everyone?
Well, I think the key is to be open to change and willing to adapt. We need to keep learning and evolving and make sure we're creating a future that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
I think that's a really powerful message. This conversation has been super insightful. But before we wrap up part 2, I want to talk about one more thing. What about all the new opportunities AI could create? Yeah, it's easy to freak out about AI replacing jobs, but what about the flip side? What about the new jobs AI might create?
Right. We tend to focus on what we might lose, but AI could also open up all these possibilities we haven't even thought of yet.
Okay, so what kind of new jobs are we talking about?
Well, for starters, as AI gets more advanced, we're going to need people to, design and build it, right?
So programmers and engineers and stuff.
Exactly, but it goes way beyond that. Think about it. We'll need people who understand AI ethics, to make sure these powerful systems are being used responsibly.
AI ethicists, huh? That's a new one.
It is. And we'll need AI trainers, people who can teach these systems how to learn and adapt, kind of like AI educators.
Whoa, that's kind of cool.
And as AI becomes more integrated into our lives, we'll need people who can bridge the gap between humans and machines.
So people who can explain all this tech stuff to us regular folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Translating complex concepts into plain language.
I see. So these new jobs, they're going to need people who are good with tech, but also have those human skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Communication, empathy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's about finding that sweet spot where human ingenuity and artificial intelligence can work together.
I like that. Now you're making me excited about AI.
Yeah.
And what if AI could take over all those boring tasks we hate doing?
That's another exciting possibility. What if AI could free us from all those hours spent on paperwork, scheduling, and all that tedious stuff?
Right. Suddenly we'd have all this extra time for hobbies and passion projects.
Exactly. Think of all the potential we could unlock when we're not bogged down by those repetitive tasks.
Okay, now you're really getting me thinking. But here's the thing, if we suddenly have all this free time, how will we actually use it?
It's a fascinating question. Will we dedicate ourselves to learning new things or exploring our creativity or maybe even finding new ways to give back to our communities?
I guess we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But it sounds like AI could really shake things up in a good way.
I think so. I think humans are naturally curious and driven. When given the opportunity, we'll find ways to connect, learn, and grow.
I hope you're right. But it's a big transition, right?
It is. There will definitely be some challenges along the way. We need to be prepared to adapt and support each other.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good reminder for our listeners. The future isn't set in stone. We all have a role to play in shaping what it looks like.
Well said.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into AI and the future of work. It's been quite a journey, right? We talked about everything from those initial anxieties about AI taking over jobs to, exploring solutions like UBI and job guarantees.
And retraining. And we even imagined what a world might look like where AI actually frees us up to pursue our passions.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to think about. So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this conversation?
I'd say stay curious. Don't be afraid to learn new things and adapt to the changes that are happening around us. The future is uncertain, sure, but it's also full of exciting possibilities.
I love that. Stay curious. Well, on that note, we'll sign off. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And remember, the future is what we make it.